Hello, my name is Jenna Dykman. I'm a registered dietitian and extension faculty in Cache County, Utah. Today we'll be making a spaghetti sauce recipe with veggies, and it's adapted from the spaghetti puttanesca recipe in the Type 2 Diabetes Cookbook. Today we'll be prepping a few different veggies today, but before we get started, we want to preheat our stove to medium-high heat. I'll be using a skillet today, but you can use your stove and just a medium-sized saucepan for this recipe. So once you've turned your stove to medium-high heat, you'll want to put some olive oil into the pan and get that preheated as well. Next up, we gotta prep our onion, mushrooms, and our zucchini. So with our mushrooms, you'll just wanna dice them up. So you'll cut off the end of the mushroom and then chop it into slices, and then flip it around and then chop them up again to give you bite-sized pieces. So you'll want to dice up enough mushrooms to have 1 cup of chopped mushrooms. Next up is our onion. You'll be using 1 medium-sized onion, and you'll just chop this onion up as well. So what I like to do when I'm chopping up an onion is just cut off 1 end, and then I like to chop the onion in half. And then from there, you'll chop it up into slices and then dice it up. Keeping one of the ends of the onions on helps just to secure all the slices as you're cutting up the onion. All right, last vegetable that we need to prep today is a zucchini. And with this recipe, I like to shred up the zucchini because you're adding it into the spaghetti sauce. It gives it a different texture and it blends well with the rest of the veggies. So you'll just need to grab a grater, and if you just place the grater on a plate and hold 1 end of the zucchini and then just grate that whole zucchini. All right, so as you can see, once you finish grating the zucchini, you have a nice pile right here. The recipe calls for 1 cup of zucchini. If you have a little extra, that's great. You can just throw that into your spaghetti sauce as well. One other vegetable that we'll need to prep is the celery. You'll use 2 stalks of celery, and when prepping celery, you'll just cut off either end of the stalk. And to make the cutting a little bit quicker, I just like to stack the 2 stalks of celery. And then from there, you can just chop up the celery. Sometimes it can be tricky to know when the oil in your pan is hot and ready to cook your food. When you're looking in your pan, if the oil is shinier than it used to be, that's a good sign to let you know that your oil is ready to go. All right, so first things first, we need to add our onion, celery, mushrooms, and then carrots. So you can just throw everything into your pan. And we've got the mushrooms that we'll throw in. And you'll notice that I didn't prep any of the carrots. I just bought pre-shredded carrots, and you'll use about a cup of shredded carrots for this recipe. If you want to just use carrots you already have, you can just shred the carrots up just like you did with the zucchini. So you'll throw those in there as well. And then lastly, you'll throw in 3 tablespoons of garlic. And again, you can use pre-minced garlic, or you can use fresh garlic and chop up cloves to give you 3 teaspoons of garlic. At this point, once you have everything in the pan, You'll just want to stir it up and saute it for about 3 to 5 minutes. You want to cook it until the onions are translucent, or in other words, kind of see-through. The next step is to add all of the other ingredients to this spaghetti sauce. So of course, we're gonna need some tomatoes, and you'll use 2 cans of diced tomatoes, 28-ounce cans of diced tomatoes, and you'll just dump those in. Then you can add your shredded zucchini. And this recipe calls for a few different spices. So first it calls for fresh basil. It calls for 2 tablespoons of fresh basil. I'm just gonna use some pre-chopped basil and just pile that in to the measuring spoon. But sometimes you don't have fresh herbs on hand, but you tend to always have dried herbs. So this recipe also calls for fresh oregano, but I just had dried oregano. So if you're using dried herbs instead of the fresh herbs, for every 1 tablespoon of fresh herbs, you'll want to use 1 teaspoon of the dried herbs. So this recipe calls for 1 tablespoon of fresh oregano. So I'm just gonna add 1 teaspoon of the dried oregano. And then last but not least is red pepper flakes. These are optional. If you want a little kick to your spaghetti sauce, you can throw in a ½ teaspoon of red pepper flakes. If you don't like spicy foods, you can just skip the red pepper flakes altogether. Once you have the rest of your ingredients into the pan, you'll just want to mix everything together. And then from there, we're gonna let the sauce simmer for about 20 minutes. This will allow the spaghetti sauce just to cook down and be ready to be put over some pasta. Now that we have our ingredients mixed together, we'll turn up the heat and bring this mixture to a boil. Once it's hit a boil, you'll turn the heat back down and again let it simmer for about 20 minutes. I've cooked whole wheat spaghetti noodles for this recipe. So when you're plating your food, you can have about a 1/3 cup of spaghetti noodles, which is a little bit hard to measure, but you can estimate on that. Using whole wheat spaghetti noodles is a great option because they are higher in fiber than just regular spaghetti noodles, which is benefit to managing diabetes, but it's also a heart healthy option as well. So we'll put our spaghetti noodles onto the dish, and then we'll add our spaghetti sauce on there as well. About 1/3 of a cup as well. And you'll notice this does look a little bit different than your regular spaghetti sauce because it does have quite a few different veggies in there. But it is a really nutrient-dense spaghetti sauce. It's a great option to help you get your veggies in for the day. And of course, if you're having spaghetti, you gotta top it with a little bit of cheese. Just throw some Parmesan on there, and then you're ready for dinner.